You're not a real soldier. You're just playing dress up for attention. That was the exact moment everything snapped. Marlene, the self-proclaimed queen of our HOA and president of the neighborhood association, spat those words with venom as she yanked my flag off its mount and let it drop to the concrete like discarded trash. Not just any flag. The flag I carried through multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. The flag that draped my best friend Tyler's casket when we flew his body home. The one I folded and unfolded with reverence every single morning since I returned. My hand clenched so hard around the grill tongs I was holding that I almost bent them in half. Marlene had no idea what she had just unleashed. Because in less than 20 minutes, my Marine brothers, 8 men built like mountains and bonded like steel, would be pulling up for our annual reunion barbecue. And Marlene was about to learn, in the most unforgettable way, the difference between a poser and the brotherhood forged in fire. That morning had started normal. I jogged my standard route around the block. On the third lap, I passed Marlene snipping at her rose bushes like they owed her money. She looked up and gave me one of her signature smirks. Her gaze locked onto the dog tags bouncing on my chest. "Still wearing those?" she called, not breaking eye contact. "Bit dramatic, don't you think?" I didn't answer. I never did. I was used to her digs. She didn't like the way I wore my boots or how I stood too straight or that my yard didn't follow her magazine cutout aesthetic. But today there was extra venom in her tone. Maybe because her motion to install decorative statues at the community pool had been voted down. Or maybe she just needed someone new to harass. Back at my porch, I unhooked the flag and straightened it as I always did, out of habit, out of honor. But just as I was about to raise it, Marlene stomped across the street, pastel tracksuit blinding in the morning light, clipboard swinging like a baton. "You know the HOA prohibits excessive or political displays on private property," she said, reaching for the flag. I stepped between her and the mount. "This flag isn't political. It's a service flag. It's mine." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. You're not a real soldier. You wouldn't keep parading around like this if you were. Real veterans move on." Then, without asking, she reached past me and yanked the flag down. Dropped it like it meant nothing. I didn't shout. I didn't move. I picked up the flag, folded it as I'd done hundreds of times before, and walked inside. Her words faded behind me as she rambled about citations and filing complaints. I sat on my couch, stared at the framed photo of me and my squad from Operation Iron Shield. My phone buzzed. Group chat notification. "Touchdown in 20. You better have ribs." I smiled. In 20 minutes, this place would be crawling with Marines. Real ones. I stepped back outside, tray of ribs in one arm, folding table in the other. Marlene stood at the edge of my lawn, arms crossed. "You're throwing a party now? After that little stunt?" I said nothing. Just set up the table and started arranging drinks. Then they rolled in. 8 black SUVs. One after another. Doors opened and out stepped men that looked like they walked out of a recruitment poster. Boots, cargos, rugged posture, stories written on their scars. One walked with a prosthetic and a Belgian Malinois by his side. Marlene took a step back, eyes wide. "Ma'am," said Hector, nodding politely as he passed her. They hugged me, slapped my back, started setting up tents and grills like it was second nature. Flags representing our battalions went up. My backyard turned into a full-blown Marine reunion. Marlene, flustered, dialed 911. Cops showed up minutes later. I recognized Officer Daniel. She helped organize a PTSD outreach event last year. His eyes lit up when he saw Hector. "You're the guy from the Kabul evac team, right?" Hector nodded. They shook hands. "Miss Reynolds," said Daniels, turning to Marlene, "this is a veteran gathering. Legal and registered." She tried to argue. The officers politely ignored her and walked off with paper plates loaded with ribs. By sunset, the neighborhood had joined in. Kids ran between tents. Neighbors brought sides. Marlene sulked behind her curtains. The next morning, she went on the attack. Emails flooded the HOA board. Subject line: "Paramilitary threat in our suburb." She claimed we were staging drills, that we were intimidating her. She demanded immediate action. We laughed over coffee. By noon, we turned my yard into a mini boot camp for the neighborhood kids. Obstacle course, flag tutorials, boot polishing. They loved it. Parents smiled. Some cried. Clint taught them to salute. Sanders lifted a toddler onto his shoulders for a photo. Marlene watched from her window, seething. She filed another complaint. Too bad Gavin, one of my guys, used to run intel for the Pentagon. He anticipated her next move and already had the permits from the City Community Engagement Authorization, signed off weeks ago. She called the cops again. Daniels came back, sipping a soda. Ma'am, he said, half the precinct's scheduled to swing by for the pulled pork. Marlene was livid. That night, Mr. Beasley, my quiet next-door neighbor, dropped by. She's filing a stolen valor report against you. Claims you're impersonating service. My stomach dropped. I called Mark, a squadmate turned lawyer. She picked the wrong week, he said. I've got your records. Let's shut this down. We assembled the documentation, DD 214's, medals, deployment orders, photos, a letter from a senator. We even had a video from a parade in D.C. At the emergency HOA meeting, we walked in like it was formation. Civilian attire, pressed and spotless. Silent, composed. Marlene walked in late, carrying a manila folder like it held nuclear secrets. She rattled off accusations. Claimed our gathering violated bylaws. Said I faked my military record. That I intimidated her. Gavin stood up. Ma'am, before you accuse someone of federal fraud, maybe make sure you're not dead wrong. I handed over the folder. Leonard, the HOA president, opened it. Silence. He looked at Marlene. Everything checks out. He's decorated. Highly. She panicked. But he's threatening me. Him and his little army. Clint stood. If we wanted to intimidate you, you'd know. We don't intimidate. We serve. Applause rippled. People stood. The board called a recess. 15 minutes later, Marlene was suspended from the HOA. That should have been the end. It wasn't. She sent a mass email titled, Military Scare Tactic Cover-Up. The neighborhood pushed back. Hard. Someone replied with my veteran ID and the caption, Receipts. Marcus filed a cease and desist. Then Karen did what she always did. Anonymous notes. A letter arrived at my door encouraging me to keep military symbols inside. It wasn't signed but bore her watermark. Marcus filed a defamation suit. Gavin created a timeline. We shared it house to house. Support poured in. An older vet cried. Said he'd been afraid to fly his flag. Then the local news showed up. A neighbor tipped them off. Marcus gave the statement. Respect. Service. Freedom. Our story spread. The HOA board, now under scrutiny, launched a full audit. Found years of abuse. Falsified citations. Rulebook edits. Dozens of residents had been wronged. They banned her from HOA operations. Leonard sent a formal apology to every house. We weren't done. We planned a Veterans Honor Day. Speakers. A flag ceremony. A Marine Corps general as guest of honor. Flyers went up. Volunteers joined. A fire truck raised a massive flag over the street. On the day of the event, the whole neighborhood showed up. Red, white, and blue lined every house. The general gave a speech that ended with, To Noah for handling this with more patience than I would have. Consider this day officially recognized. Cheers. Tears. Applause. We unveiled a wooden sign near my porch. Real Marines live here, respect earned. Not given. Freedom fought for, never forgotten. Across the street, behind a curtain, Marlene watched. Silent. 1 week later, she resigned. No goodbyes. Just a quiet, moving truck at dawn. The HOA rewrote its policies. Brought in community votes. Held real meetings. Flags appeared on porches. Kids played freely. Neighbors started smiling again. That night, Clint raised a beer. If she'd just left that flag alone. I nodded. Maybe it needed to happen. Sometimes it takes a fight to bring people together. And sometimes all it takes is one Marine, one barbecue, and one flag worth defending to flip a whole neighborhood on its head.